Hello and welcome to True Crimes AI. On a February morning in 1990, a typical day at a local bowling alley in Las Cruces, New Mexico, spiraled into one of the most tragic and baffling unsolved crimes in American history. Despite eyewitnesses, survivor testimony, and decades of investigation, the killers have never been identified. This is the heartbreaking case of the Las Cruces bowling alley shooting. The A&A Bowling Alley was a familiar, family-owned business in Las Cruces. It was a place for fun, with a bowling area and a small snack bar, usually buzzing with families, employees, and regular customers, especially on weekends. The morning of Saturday, February 10, 1990, began just like any other. The bowling alley opened for business. Employees arrived for their shifts, and a few early patrons, including children, were already inside. There were no warnings, no signs of the unimaginable horror that was about to unfold. At approximately 8:45 a.m., two unidentified men walked into the bowling alley. They appeared calm, even casual, as they approached the snack bar and ordered food. Nothing about their behavior raised any immediate alarm, but moments later, the calm was shattered. The two men produced firearms and seized control of the area near the snack bar. They forced everyone present to lie down on the floor. What happened next was a rapid, brutal, and seemingly deliberate act of violence that would leave 7 people shot, 4 of them fatally. The victims of this senseless attack were a mix of employees and customers, adults and children. Those who tragically lost their lives were Barbara Ann Lopez, who was 48, Beverly Jean Brown, age 33, Melanie Mann, who was 25, and 12-year-old Stephanie Foster. Miraculously, 3 people survived the shooting, though with critical injuries. They were Stephanie's 13-year-old sister, Michelle Foster, Paula Mays, who was 26, and 8-year-old Melody Ann Candelaria. These survivors, despite their trauma, would later provide vital information to investigators, becoming the only link to the perpetrators. After the shooting, the suspects grabbed a small amount of cash from the register and fled the scene. The amount taken was relatively minor, leading investigators to question whether simple robbery was truly the primary motive for such extreme violence. In a heroic act, one of the wounded victims managed to crawl to a phone and call 911. First responders arrived quickly, rushing the injured to nearby hospitals. The community of Las Cruces was left in a state of shock, grappling with the tragedy and desperately searching for answers that have yet to come. The initial investigation moved swiftly. Detectives determined that 2 firearms were used, both .22 caliber handguns. The incident appeared organized and intentional, not a robbery that had simply gone wrong. Investigators couldn't find any immediate personal disputes between the victims and potential suspects. The survivors provided crucial descriptions of the attackers: 2 Hispanic males, one with a stockier build, the other taller and thinner. Based on these accounts, composite sketches were created and widely circulated, but they led nowhere. The case quickly became a labyrinth of dead ends. Over the years, the investigation has been massive. More than 7,000 tips have been followed up on. Over 1,200 individuals have been interviewed. Several people were considered persons of interest, only to be cleared later. The investigation was further complicated by false confessions, which wasted precious time and resources. Crucially, neither of the murder weapons was ever recovered, and the forensic evidence available was limited by the technology of the time. Despite an intense, decades-long effort, no arrests have ever been made. With no definitive leads, several theories have been considered. The most obvious is robbery. But as mentioned, the level of violence seemed vastly disproportionate to the small amount of money stolen. This led to another theory: witness elimination. Perhaps the attacker's intent was to leave no one alive to identify them. The fact that 3 people survived, however, casts some doubt on this. Another possibility is a case of targeting error. Maybe the perpetrators went to the wrong location or were after someone who wasn't there, but without a confession or a breakthrough, all of these remain unproven speculation. So why does this case still matter so much more than 3 decades later? It remains deeply troubling because it happened in a public, family-friendly space, a place where people should feel safe. There were multiple witnesses who survived and gave clear descriptions of the suspects. Yet, despite all this, no one has ever been held accountable. The killers literally got away with murder in broad daylight, and the thought that they could still be out there is a chilling one. Today, the Las Cruces bowling alley case is still classified as an open investigation. Law enforcement continues to accept tips, and the case periodically receives renewed media attention, especially as forensic technology advances, offering new hope for a breakthrough. But for the families of the victims and the survivors who carry the scars of that day, justice has remained elusive. A routine morning, a place meant for families, and a crime that still has no answers. The community of Las Cruces, and indeed the entire country, waits for the day when this cold case is finally solved. If you found this case informative, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. It helps keep attention on unsolved cases like this one, because every victim deserves justice. You've been watching True Crimes AI. Thank you for watching.